production of Higher Arts Education Institute. We are very glad to have Professor Hirai Aiko as our moderator. Hirai Aiko herself specializes in performing arts, and she's now the director of International Center, Kyoto University of Art and Design. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Let me introduce 5 wonderful panelists. First of all, Kazuo Oike. He's and second, Paula Crabtree. And Professor Martinez, sorry, I'll do my best. Marianto. I'm sorry about my pronunciation. Next one is harder. Vice Rector Kayhan Ülker. And then Steve Dixon, Professor Steve Dixon. First of all, Professor Kazuo Oike will make speech. Thank you. He's currently president of Kyoto University of Art and Design. Although he's a president of Art University, he's a seismologist studying earthquake. He's a scientist.
Good afternoon. My name is Kazuo. Catfish is my nickname who causes an earthquake in Japan. Because my background field is seismology, the study of earthquakes. Next one. As a physical scientist, I want to speak today an important matter about the education of the University of Art and Design. I think it is very important to utilize as much as possible the property of the grand intellect that the human accumulates and builds through age and art. At first, I will show you the distribution of our members' university. Next. Next. This shows, I will show you the distribution of the large-scale earthquake larger than magnitude 8.4. Next. This is the distribution of shallow earthquake larger than magnitude 7.4. Please compare the distribution of our member universities as an earthquake. Next, please. The first message is that land is not still, but ever moving. I believe that this is a fundamental premise that must be shared by all the peoples of the world. Next. A typical example shows the 2008 Sichuan earthquake disaster which occurred in the part of China. Next. This earthquake was one of the largest shocks in China along the boundary of Tibetan Plateau and Sichuan Basin. That is one of the boundaries between the two microclimates. The large-scale movement among tectonic plates caused storms on Grassroots. Another natural This slide gives a brief overview of the natural phenomena that constitute an earthquake. On the world seismicity map, we can find many stable places and moving places. For example, please remember two regions with no earthquakes. For example, Sydney and Stockholm. Stockholm is a Paula person. Next, please. In Sydney and Stockholm, left-hand side show, you can find the stable bedrock at everywhere in the city. And so, the bedrock in Stockholm produced the Nobel Prize, as you know, from the dynamic. I would like to propose a fresh and highly relevant world view. That is that the world may be viewed as consisting of two distinct regions, the moving regions and, of the deformation belt and the almost still continental regions. Please next. The two regions have different subsurface structures. With respect to human history, the important results of the substructure of the deformation belt region are then that the motion of active faults give rise to land basin cities. Next, please. I feel that it is important to emphasize within our education to understand the basic differences of the two worlds. Next, please. It is important for students who are going to engage in high artwork that I acquire this scientific knowledge in the education course of the university. I think and I believe that there is nature before producing works of art. I do not think that we are unrelated to nature, even if I take a picture, music, building, and others. Next, please. I'm now in the University of Art and Design. I have the Global Environment Theory lecture. I teach the space, the sun, the moon, the earth in my lecture. And inviting many kinds of people staring at the earth in really various viewpoints. I ask their experience talks. Students expand their viewpoints for nature in this lecture, and their field of vision spread out, and their idea become rich. Next, please. In the history of the earth, phenomena called the extinction have been caused. The human being sometimes becomes extinct too. At that time, we have to leave behind beautiful fossils based on the earth. Next. This is the first suggestion for today's third session. Please next. We must enhance our education in order to broaden our perception of the world. Finally, I would like to leave you with our further message. That is, that for the future of this planet, the collaborative efforts of university presidents are every bit as vital as the arts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Oike. So let's move to Stockholm, everybody. That's okay. From this morning, we have heard about integration of arts and science, and I think it is important that now we have to figure out how to assure the meeting point of arts and science. Next speaker is going to be Paula Crabtree. She's currently Vice Chancellor of Stockholm University of Arts in Sweden. Also, she's an executive board member of ELIA. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I'd just like to thank Professor Young and Professor Park for the invitation to come here. Absolutely delighted. It's been the day or two that's almost here. It's been absolutely fantastic so far. So thank you so much for the invitation. I'm also very happy to hear that I'm from a stable landmass. I'm the first Vice Chancellor of a new university that was established on the 1st of January. I'm in a very unstable, closed-in environment at the moment, with 3 universities merging to make the one. So you can imagine it's quite a tough time. That's my day job. The rest of the time, well, not the rest of the time, I'm also Vice President of ELIA, which is one of the reasons that I'm here. I was very happy to hear this morning Professor Hwang Jong-tung, who's from the Taiwan Evaluation Accreditation Council. He said he wishes to listen and learn from you, from us. And I think that's incredibly important when we're discussing, next slide please, quality assurance, and it's particularly in the arts. It is so important that accreditation agencies take heed to the institutions that are working with the arts. Increasingly, ministries are demanding that all education is rigorously controlled, that the quality is assured. At ELIA, we asked ourselves who should be the ones who are responsible to do this? Who has the competence to do this? We're about 300 members, you've heard it now twice before, almost 55 countries. So we represent an enormous competence. And from this point of view, we thought, surely it's us that has the competence to do this job. Surely it's us that should be developing this. Next slide, please. So we decided to establish a service or an agency, if you like. We spent about 10 years working on projects which got support from the European Union to develop them. And through this time we developed methodologies for looking at how to work with quality assurance in the arts. As you see here, we're concerned with enhancement for higher education, arts education. It's peer review we're talking about, trained experts from higher arts education. So that means we understand what arts universities are about. We understand what higher arts education is about. And when I'm saying we, I'm saying collective we, everybody in the room apart from a couple of people, like Philippe. Next slide, please. Again, I said the focus is on enhancement. How can we make what we do better? We're not too interested in control. We're interested in seeing what we do and how we can make it better. We don't want to streamline, and we don't want to rubber stamp. Next question, please. These are the rather generic questions relating to enhancement. And they're related to what institution itself does. So what do you do? What are you trying to do with your institution or your program? How are you trying to achieve it? How do you know it works? And how do you prove the changes and the improvements that you're doing? How can you show them to other people? In other words, it's you that describe your aims, you as the institution, not an agency, but you, or we, or me sometimes, because I also get evaluated. Next question, please. The EQ Arts work as so-called critical friends. And we offer, as a team, we offer a very rigorous evaluation process. It looks at the very specific vision and national context of the institution. So again, underlining diversity, not looking at streamlining. It draws upon national, international, and of course in our case, European qualification frameworks. And we maintain a clear focus on the student experience. This is as opposed to a kind of professor-led training experience. We're looking at how the student engages in their learning situation throughout their studies. The way a review works is you have a peer review team made up of usually different nationalities, different genders, without a doubt. And they make visits to an institution, at least 2 visits. The institution writes a self-evaluation. This is a standard practice in most evaluations that happen. We also look at the laws governing the country, because they differ. So we have to put ourselves inside the knowledge of that particular institution and of that country. And at the end of the 2 visits, we produce a report for the institution to use themselves. In other words, we're not giving you an exam, we're helping you. It's a developmental process, helping you, hopefully, on the way. When we do the interviews, we're interviewing staff members, students, of course, alumni, and stakeholders. All very, very important parts of doing what we're doing. Next slide, please. We offer both institutional and or program peer reviews. As I said, an international board. And we give support and cooperation with national accreditation agencies. This means that there are some national agencies that have come to us and asked us to do the jobs for them, because they recognise that within the arts, we are the ones with the competence. That's important. Otherwise, individually, we're asked to take part in reviews, so far all over Europe and a little bit beyond. Next slide, please. We do workshops, we do training workshops for people who would like to take part as an expert in these kind of review situations. And it's a very rewarding situation to look at other schools, because you can use it to look at yourself. That information is very, very useful. We discuss and help develop the qualification frameworks and learning outcomes in particular. Still quite a lot of countries, particularly in Europe, that perhaps don't understand what learning outcomes are. And we also give support in preparing for an institutional or subject peer review. Our next training session, should anybody be interested, is in Birmingham, and it's on the 30th of March 2015, 30th and 31st of March. If anybody's keen on coming, then it's on the website, so go in, or I'll send any of us an email about it. We'd be very happy to see any of you there. Next slide, please. What does it result in? Well, the idea is to develop confidence, so that as an institution, you know what you're doing is good, and you can show it, you can prove it. Not just by saying I'm the best, but by being able to prove it. It's almost like a scientific method that Aiko would support, I think. We're concerned about the students' learning experience, as I said, and we're concerned about how all these processes are embedded within everything throughout the university, so that you can see at any stage in the learning experience and the teaching experiences how the processes are working. And it's from bachelor's to master's to PhD, and the research environment. Next slide, please. So that's the website, if anybody's interested in following up. You can either go onto that website or on the LAO website. Happy to answer any questions at any time. Unfortunately, we three from Europe, from LAO, that came just the other day, are leaving very early tomorrow morning. So that means if you want to personally ask us anything, you need to catch us this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you very much. Now we know area people are making so much effort for the quality assurance, and we still have to learn a lot from you and training and develop for the quality assurance. But I think, area doing really difficult problem to solve that, you are doing very positively. I like the word critical friends, or something like a difficult thing for the, something like a second session. That's very impressive. It's very positive way to solve difficult problems. Thank you. So, next panelist will be Professor Marianto, Marianto. He's the head of International Affairs Unit of Indonesia Institute of the Arts, Yogyakarta. Please.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention, and I feel honored to be here. When I was asked by my rector to prepare for this presentation, I was very much occupied by the hectic situation of the national election. Okay, next please. Okay, on the 9th of July 2014, Indonesian people had a general election. The people of all the provinces elected for their future presidents and vice president directly. In the meantime, Mr. Joko Widodo and Mr. Yusuf Kala won the elections, and they have been called president and vice president elect. In the meantime, the Indonesian Institute of the Arts of Yogyakarta has also been in the process of electing its new rector or president. However, the elections is held in two stages. The first is on the grassroots level, in which all of the staff members elected 3 rector candidates out of the selected nominees. In August 2014, all academic staff members of Yogyakarta have selected 3 candidates out of 6 nominees. Next please. This 2-stage election is regulated by a ministerial decree. By the decree, electing a rector of the university or institute is done twice, on the grassroots level, and on the senatorial level. On the grassroots levels, all of the faculty members select 3 rector candidates out of the selected nominees verified by the election committee of the institution. In the senatorial level elections, all senators and the Minister of National Education selects 1 out of the 3 candidates at the same time. Our school, Yogyakarta, now has 27 members Senate. However, by the same decree, 1 ballot of the minister or the representative of the minister counts 35% of the whole voting. The next please. This election system has caused controversies, even frictions in a number of institutions during or after the elections. But that is how the system works. Before the decree changes, about the same controversies persist. Next please. Back to the presidents and vice president-elects Jokowi and Yusuf Kala. Jokowi is a creative person, whilst Yusuf Kala or JK has a good sense of humor. They delivered a victory speech in a very unique way that was on a finished sheet in the port of Santa Kelapa, Jakarta, July 22nd, 2014. Next, please. The presidents and vice presidents-elects will be inaugurated very soon on the 20th of October 2015. Now, in this transition time, Jokowi and Sukala are preparing their cabinet sitting for their programs and nature. The official terms of the existing rector of Yogyakarta will end on December 18, 2015. Until this presentation written, we haven't yet known the date when the new rector will be elected, for we have to adjust to the agenda of the minister or the representative of the minister. Next, please. Jokowi and impromptu visits. Since he became the mayor of Surakarta, then the governor of Jakarta, and now as president-elect, Joko Widodo or Jokowi has been well known by and associated with his daily activities. He often belusukan or impromptu or extempore visits to many places. Belusuan is a Javanese word. By doing so, he is clearly and freshly able to see real facts, problems, as well as spiritual potential for solutions on the spots he visits. Jokowi has done so in a big number of unexpected sites and events. So far, Jokowi has gained huge support from the peoples from various walks of life. Next, please. Jokowi's impromptu visits can be at anything or anywhere, ranging from inspecting a bus terminal to scrutinizing the staff performance at the working room of a local governmental office. Here, an illustration when Mr. Jokowi, as the governor of Jakarta, inspected water channels in Jakarta. Just a few days after a big flood that hit Jakarta in 2014, he himself got into one of the manholes to check the channels inside. Creative economy and mental revolution. In their campaigns, Jokowi, JK frequently mentioned their wish for Indonesian people to take creative economy seriously and work hard on it, instead of merely depending on the economy which is based on natural resources. Jokowi, JK introduced the term mental revolutions in talking about fundamental changes in people's mentality to increase the life quality and prosperity of Indonesian people. Next, please. Awakening the grassroots. Jokowi, who likes visiting traditional markets, often talked about strategic ways to increase productivity and competitiveness of the people in the international market to make Indonesian people rise, progress, and interact with other nations in Asia. Now, in the transition period before he and Yusuf Kala are sworn in as president and vice presidents, they are preparing programs for actualizing economic sovereignty by generating strategic sectors of domestic economy. Next, please. This is just an example. Jokowi was in the traditional market at Tomohon, North Sulawesi, 2014. Next, please. So far, Jokowi and Yusuf Kala is well known as visionary and democratic leaders and are against formalistic bureaucracy. They prefer realistic actions that are quick and accurate for the sake of the people's wealth. They do not like to decorate themselves in rich or artificial pretensions and fancy self-imaging. Next, please. Supported by many artists, musicians, youngsters, and intellectuals. Jokowi and Yusuf Kala are supported by artists, cultural activists, singers, actors, intellectuals, and grassroots, even by Indonesians living overseas. Their not humility, their simplicity, their humbleness and simplicity has attracted many. Translating Jokowi's visionary programs. Yogyakarta, our school, should be able to translate Jokowi JK's macros policy to its working programs, then implement them through real-time academic activities like classical teachings, researcher, and communities services. ISI Yogyakarta should be supportive toward Jokowi's and JK's visions to improve the creative economy in Indonesia. This is necessary to reduce the state's dependency towards natural resources so that it could be balanced by cultural and creative resources. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, by exposing about Jokowi and JK's programs, actually our school want to stress a curriculum that is to encourage students to be very much sensitive to their culture and to their environment, so they can see real problems and they can think about the real solution for the society itself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Mariano. We learned that, we realized that we are in not only a different culture, but also different politics. And what we learned from him is like how the politics affect higher education. And really good luck for the Jokowi you support. Thank you. Next panelist will be Professor Kayhan Ülker. Sorry. He's currently Vice Rector of, please, project again. Yes, Mimar Sinan Fine Arts University. Please proceed.
So first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak, and I would like to thank Professor Park, President of Paula, and Professor Yang, President of TNUA and his team for the wonderful hospitality in the university. I will speak about a little bit about quality assurance on fine arts education and a little bit about my university. Also, I'd like to mention that it's also great to be here because, you know, I mean, this lands like last year where the civilization and art exists for a very, very long time. So, next please. So, okay, University of Fine Arts University, we are located in Istanbul, and we are the oldest art institution in Turkey. 132 years ago, it was founded as Sanayi Nefise, which means Fine Arts School. And after the revolution in 1928, it became the Academy of Fine Arts. In 1964, it was the State Academy of Fine Arts. And then there was, maybe you know, in 1980, there was a military coup, and the soldiers, they decided that academy can be only exist for police and soldiers. So we were converted to university, and we took the name Mimar Sinan University, which is architect Sinan University. And in 2004, finally, connect our route with the fine arts. We changed the name again and we became the Mimar Sinan Fine Arts University. So this gentleman is Osman Hamdi. He's the founder of our university. He's a painter, archaeologist, and historian of art. So the organization of the Mimar Sinan Fine Arts University, as I said, when it was the academic, there was architecture and fine art, obviously. But when we were converted to university, there was also a science and letters faculty. So the main faculties of the university is fine arts and architecture. And most of the science and letters faculty departments were the supporting departments for fine arts and architecture, like archaeology, history of art, sociology, literature, philosophy. And because there's science, there is physics, mathematics, and statistics, just 3 science departments. And I would say positive science, but the social scientists, they would be angry, so, okay, mathematical science, let's say. We have a state conservatory, 3 departments, music, musicology, performing arts. Also, we have some vocational schools and another school of conservation and restoration of global cultural properties. The master and PhD and proficiency in arts programs are run under the Institutes of Natural, Social, and Fine Arts Institutes. There are 3 institutes. So I thought I would be the only scientist here, but there's Professor Oike, who spoke before me. Indeed, I'm a physicist, and it's great to be a physicist inside in a fine arts university, because in fine arts, the people, they're always interested in physics. Okay, when you speak about theories about growing dimensions or whatever, they always wonder what is it. And, so next please. So indeed, we are a university where art and science meet. So this is, the picture is not so good because it's really the photo, I'm not the artist. So this is an example. The story is funny. So with a colleague one day we were working and she saw my calculations and she said that it looks like texture. So I was surprised, of course, you know, because I had some pages of calculations. So basically what I did is I had some basic equations of my research from general relativity, field theory, and string theory. And what went out was this thing. So the first line, it looks like calligraphy, but it's not. So the first line is the Einstein equation. Somewhere there is the famous non-quotation of string theory and some other equations of field theory. So indeed, again, I showed some equations in my talk. Good. Next, please. So, okay, who we are. So we are the guiding university of national art education politics in Turkey, since we are the oldest and biggest art university. And we are the most popular fine arts institution among the students. So every year approximately we have 2,500 applicants. They register for the talent exams. And we accept only around 250 of them. And it's really competitive. And also we have around 8,000 students altogether with graduate and undergraduate studies. And we have many exchange students that I will speak later. Next, please. So, moreover, okay, we do the education. Okay, we're a university, but we are also at the center of the art and cultural life of Turkey, especially Istanbul. Next, please. Sorry. So, to mention only 2 of our cultural centers, one is Tophane'ye Amire, which means Imperial Armory Cultural Center, because not anymore armory. For example, there are some visuals there. Okay, the first one, I guess, it was the exhibition of Dali. And then we have another photo from the exhibition of Dunhuang, the colors of Dunhuang. And it was the first time that it was outside China, and it was going to be done the first before going to London. Then, for example, on the right, with the red colors, it is the Spirit of the Ink, which is a Chinese exhibition, very interesting exhibition, which is going on now. And then we have the Cinema TV Center. We have all the archive of Turkish movies. And then you see a gentleman, he is Kim Ki-doo. He was visiting us last year. And I guess for the first time in his life, he literally sang a song on the stage. So this was very interesting. So next, please. Moreover, we have the Painting and Sculpture Museum, which is the largest and most important collection, which has the largest and most important collection in Turkey. These are some paintings from the collection. For the moment, we have the temporary galleries for the exhibition, and the construction is going on. And the museum will be fully functional in autumn 2015. So I hope that when one day in the future, near future, we have the meeting in Istanbul, you will be able to visit it. Next, please. So, okay, so the title was Quality Assurance. It's a tricky subject. So the quality assurance for us is the tradition, because we are really an old institution, and we try to keep the high quality of the education for 130 years. So these are some visuals from several periods of the academy and the university. However, of course, this is not enough to guarantee the accountability. and international recognition, and so internationalization. Although we are recognized not so bad, I think at least in Europe we have around 200 Erasmus agreements, and I think we are the most exchange students coming abroad to our university. And these 200 agreements, they include mostly Italy, France, Germany. We have Poland also, Poland and so on. Next, please. So, okay, since I'm a physicist, I'd like to write the definition first and then think about the problem. So this definition comes from the webpage of the UNESCO. So what is quality assurance? It's a systematic review of educational programs to ensure that acceptable standards of education, scholarship, and infrastructure are being maintained. So why it is important? As I mentioned before, probably the most important items are accountability, recognition, and internationalization. Accountability is important because policymakers, they want to see numbers, okay, because they love numbers, they love Excel tables and so on. And so to go on getting fundings, we have to show some nice tables here. And also recognition. I mean, if you are recognized, life is much easier. It's like internationalization. Be able to collaborate with several artists or researchers from all over the world. But of course it has disadvantages too, because it means more bureaucracy and less time for academic staff to teach and to research or create. Next please. So how is the quality assurance in Turkey? So we have the Council of Higher Education, which is controlling all the universities in Turkey. And what we do is we have the internal evaluation process in accordance with the regulation of academic evaluation and quality development in higher education institutions. And so very soon there will be another organization under this Council of Higher Education for the external evaluation, because what's important is the external evaluation. Because as almost as we are the rectors or vice rectors, internal evaluation is easier to manipulate, okay? But external evaluation is more important. So, okay, and we do all these efforts in accordance with the standards and guidelines for the quality assurance in the European higher education area. Next, please. Okay, so as Paula explained, some evaluation criteria are common both in science and arts. It's like the institutional, faculty, program management processes, program organizations, students, how many students you have per academic staff, learning and teaching processes, student support processes, infrastructure, etc. Next, please. However, some are not, especially the criteria for the evaluation of the academic and student works. In science, it's easy to get numbers. For example, you just count the number of papers, books, patents, etc. And then you look at the impact parameter of the journals where the academic works are published, and you look at the citation reports, IG index, okay, Stefani index, and so on. Although, as a theoretical physicist, I don't believe that this measures too many things, but anyway. In art, it's not so easy to measure. So most of the evaluation criteria depends on the reputation and the recognition of the institutions. And that's why I think that there are not so many art institutions in the listings of top universities. So I was speaking with someone from QS who are doing the rankings of the university, and I was wondering how do they do this ranking. So for the standard universities, it's easy. They look at those parameters and they just do the top 100 university or 500 or whatever. So I asked them what they do for the art. So basically what they are doing is they are sending surveys to people all around the world, and they are asking if you know these people or not. Okay, so it was very interesting. Next please. So as I said, I mean, quality assurance is important to a globally recognized
I think Turkey is the meeting point of East and West, and I think his university is aware of and using the point as a higher education. That's something I learned from your last speech. Thank you. Next panelist will be Professor Steve Dixon. He is currently president of LaSalle College of the Art, Singapore. Please proceed.
Thanks very much. So, although I have a background as an arts practitioner in theatre and film, I've also spent quite a bit of my time working for, well, doing quality assurance and enhancement work in the UK for the Quality Assurance Agency, which is the overall government organisation that goes and reviews all the universities. So I've been to a number of universities and drama schools and dance schools and arts and design institutions and so on as an outside assessor. So, but of course I've also been an academic leader and so on. I'm currently at LaSalle. Now interestingly, both the UK and Singapore I think in the world amongst the most regulated and toughest for quality assurance and enhancement. And Europe generally is quite tough on it, but the UK is, and as I found out, so is Singapore. So perhaps it's one reason why I got the job. So anyway, next slide, please. Now there's a bit of a challenge here, and a tension, if you like, and I feel it as an artist. The artists generally want to break rules rather than conform to them. And I think sometimes this is one of the challenges we have within arts institutions. And I put a few things there in terms of how academic staff may perceive quality assurance. And the speaker before was talking about, there is more bureaucracy and paperwork and so on. And obviously it's about systems, paperwork, conformity, and so on, as well as good pedagogy. But good pedagogy, being good in the quality of the work in the classroom, is just one small element of quality assurance and enhancement. It tends to also really look at the institutional efficiency, fairness, equality, how you're responding to student issues, and so on and so on and so on. So I'm asking here, how are we going to change perceptions? How are we going to see quality assurance as being less problematic because we deal with the issues rather than more problematic because it's more work. Next slide, please. Okay, other challenges that I've found, in different institutions that I've been in are often inconsistent quality assurance practices across the institution. So, for example, one dean may be more interested in the systems and processes than another. A real visionary dean can be marvellous and your best dean, but equally may not have an eye for detail, which quality assessors will want to see, because often they're just tick boxing that things are done. Also, there are issues about how we best manage quality assurance. One thing, and actually I've done it in Singapore, I created a quality unit, a quality department. So a lot of things are done centrally. I'll talk a bit more about it. But equally, we need to embed quality assurance, and we also talking about mental revolutions earlier. How do we have a mental revolution so all academic staff and administrative staff are thinking quality is going to make life easy, but it needs to be embedded both within the faculty or department and the institution as a whole. Also, how are we going to share good practice, and how are we going to make everyone be responsible for quality and have a quality culture within the institution. Next slide. So LaSalle is very complex because it's partly private and non-profit and partly public. It's funded by the Ministry of Education. It has 3 separate quality audits going on at any one time. The Council for Private Education, which is a really tick-box bureaucracy, horrendous. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say things like that, but it's a very difficult quality assurance agency. And they examine us every 2.5 years. A small one after 2.5 years, and then a big one after 5 years. Ministry of Education has an annual performance review and a 5-year kind of major review. And then Goldsmiths College validates all our degree programs. We have sort of yearly reports and a 5-year institutional review. They've all got agendas and priorities within quality assurance. Next slide. So how did we respond to the diverse quality audits at LASALLE? And partly because we weren't doing extremely well. We were doing okay, but we weren't showing that we were like internationally, top of the leagues. What we did was we became proactive rather than responsive. So I established an internal quality assurance audit system. So we were having all these reviews all the time, having to put lots of paperwork and things together. I decided we would do it ourselves every year. It actually became every 6 months, which sounds tough, but it gets easier and easier. So I instituted a 6-monthly audit system so that we just had all this working, and it sorted things out, as I'll show, over about 2 years. So it was instituted in 2012. I've just finished the 4th of the 6-monthly review, and it sort of turned things around. We made, and Paula was saying this earlier, made quality enhancement a key driver. Assurance is one thing, but enhancement in itself, if you were getting things better and enhancing things, you are assuring quality. And we made it inclusive with all staff, and we sought to persuade staff of the benefits and to promote and instill this culture. Not easy in an art school, but we managed that, I think. Next slide. This is a typical self-assessment form. So we're dealing here with there are 17, there are 5 faculties and 12 administrative divisions, student services, admissions, finance, ICT, and so on. So each do a self-assessment document which shows what enhancements they've undertaken in the last 6 months, and that's the hang on. Oh, hang on, we've gone. Sorry, I missed the slide. Okay, so that's the overview. Sorry, so 6 monthly reviews, self-assessment document. I lead a 2-hour meeting, so it takes about 2 weeks to get through 17 of these. And it's attended by key staff, normally 5 to 10, so program leaders within faculties, middle managers, as well as directors within administrative divisions. Next slide. Okay, sorry, I was ahead of myself. That's the part of the document that the deans or directors of our admin divisions will fill out with their staff. So it's about what are the issues, what actions have you taken, some evidence, and that may be just, we had a meeting on July the 5th to discuss this, we did that. So there is some sort of evidence against that, some evaluation, success and impact, and whether it's completed or not. So, and then so that's about what happened in the last 6 months. We go to the next slide. This is really a key driver. Was also they had to say what they do in the next 6 months, so they can't just leave it open. So what they're planning to do. Sometimes as well, I might guide it a little if I feel that a faculty hasn't got as much industrial engagement as it might have. There aren't any projects with industry and so on. I'll say, look, I'm going to impose this on you. It may be about reviewing curriculum or assessment, more academic partnerships, faster feedback to students, all these kinds of issues that may come up. And equally in the previous slide, is also they need to respond to any student feedback, if there's the bad student modules and so on. So this is really an important driver, so that we continually look at, okay, what can we do better? Again, it's tough at the beginning, but it has worked for us as an institution. Next slide, please. Okay, we then do a composite report. The Quality Office looks at things institution-wide and may make some recommendations in relation to that, so that we can be a better institution. You can see, sorry, next slide. Sorry. Okay, so there's a composite report, so we can reflect on things, so we can kind of join up our practices and so on, look at best practices. We've also revised all the institutions' operating manuals and SOPs, standard operating procedures, and it's really led to some institutional cohesion. Next slide, please. Okay, so staff have become more proactive and self-reflective, and also we have got, from all of those three agencies, we've got incredible praise, because it shows we are very serious about what we're doing at LASALLE. We've always been a quality institution, and you know, our student work is excellent. But in terms of really sort of making us stand out in comparison to the National University of Singapore, you know, Singapore's a tiny country, but they take their education seriously. National University of Singapore is in the top 25 in the world. And it's only been doing research the last 25 years. So we really pushed in Singapore. And this was something that we're really able to evidence, say, look, you know, we've invented our own system, we do this systematically. I'm not saying everyone has to do this, but it has really sort of transformed external opinion about the institution. And all the external quality reviews are going extremely well. Next slide. So this is the CP, the Council for Private Education. Every year they have an external consultant that comes in and scores you out of 1,000. This is how exact it is. No, this is the highest score, the 797 is the highest score any institution has got in Singapore, any private institution. And trust me, there are several hundred institutions. So, so year on year, we've gone up to 3.5% from 2012 to 13 when it was first implemented, and 7.5% again, or 75 points out of 1,000 in the next year. Next slide. Okay, also interesting is the student satisfaction, because again, it's a real survey culture that we're in Singapore. There are students that do module evaluation surveys and an overall year survey and satisfaction. They have really improved. We also have staff satisfaction surveys which are benchmarked against other education institutions and the business sector. And we've found that, you see from those results there, these over the last 2 years have come from marks from sort of satisfaction or high satisfaction in the 60s and 70s, have all gone to 80 and at times 90%. And last slide, please. Yeah. So conclusions. I think it's good within institutions to lead from the front, to be proactive rather than reactive to quality assurance issues. Enhancement's key to assurance, as I said before. It's good to, what I've found with the meetings I undertake where I work with staff is, in the first couple of years it was tough and we're grappling with a few issues, but as it developed, it becomes more and more about a really sort of positive, a really positive meeting. So people look forward to it and are proud to show, look, we've done this, we've turned around that. They're giving us quantitative data in terms of trends, not just sort of qualitative record and so on. Be inclusive, foster wide staff engagement across the institution, and a holistic quality culture. And yeah, I think the results will be absolutely worth it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Dixon. Last time when I visited his school, by chance, that was an evaluation time by an outside examiner, and I was rather surprised that Singaporean people happily accept or recognize about the British QS system, I think. So if you are interested in the system or would like to learn the system, please ask him later more detail about that. Thank you.